welcome to this Focus On special with myself, Nastasia Arendse, coming to you from Luanda, Angola at the U.S. Africa Business Summit. This year's summit's theme is Pathways to Prosperity, and it's seen as a platform to deepen and strengthen ties between the United States and Africa. Over the past 3 days, I had a conversation with both business leaders as well as some of the African leaders on the continent. Let's listen in to some of those conversations. Have Mitreli having signed an MOU for $1.5 billion with Hydrolink. Talk to me about how this aligns with your strategic goals within the region.
Good. Mitreli is in the region for over 3 decades. So we've been implemented large-scale projects, over 100 mega projects actually across Africa. Specifically countries like Angola, Mozambique, Ivory Coast and Senegal. And strategically, we want to grow our operations, and by our DNA, we want to implement projects that really impact lives in Africa. This project specifically is very strategic for Mitreli, for Hydrolink, for Angola, and for the region of the Lobito Corridor, DRC, and also Zambia. We want to connect through transmission lines the capacity that Angola has today, that is not being utilized in full capacity, and also to bring it to mining sectors in the neighbor countries, and utilize this infrastructure also to distribute connection to the population around Angola and mainly in the Lobito corridor as well. I think this, you create a democratization of the resources that Angola is producing today.
Let's expand on that. How does this Hydrolink project, what makes it so transformational, but then also what role do you believe you want to play to bring it to life?
Yes, we are in Angola for more than 30 years. So in terms of operational capacity, we are one of the largest companies here. We have a lot of expertise. We know the country very well. We've been working in all the provinces in the country. We are very engaged in various projects with the government. We have delivered a lot of projects related to energy, from production to transmission and distribution. So our role here is to connect the interest of the United States through Hydrolink as well, to produce more and more projects, to bring more and more partnerships here. And we believe that we can be one of the major strategic partners for U.S. and for the countries in this region.
So you already have executed infrastructure projects along the corridor. When you think about the new opportunities this project will create, what does that look like, especially for communities around that route?
Very good question. I think that there are a lot of opportunities, mainly for the population. This Lobito corridor, that today is still a railway, around 40 million people are living there. We need to think what the benefit for those people, what is in there for them. And this is our mindset. In everything that we do, we think in the end about the people. If it's not generating add value to the people, we don't want to be there. So bringing energy to this region means a lot. First of all, for most of the population, it will be the first time that they'll be connected to the grid. Reliable energy, it literally changed lives of people. Second, I think we to allow industrialization of these regions. Without industries and without energy, we cannot bring progress. So we believe that Angola has a lot of capacity, a lot of natural resources, and a lot of talent to develop industries. So along this line, I do believe that a lot of progress will come from industrialization, for family or of agriculture. There are a lot of potentials. We've built already farms, in agro-industrial projects in this line, and the challenge is always the same. The good connection for the grid. And I think this project, you support a lot this solution.
You mentioned the word energy, and we do know that the critical role, rather, that the energy is playing when it comes to mineral processing as well as industrialization. How does this project support broader economic goals, especially at a time where there is a strategic interest, at least from the U.S., when it comes to critical minerals?
I think it's totally connected to all the interests, for whoever produced the minerals, for whoever transformed the minerals and for whoever used the minerals. United States, I think, plays a major role here and a huge interest exactly because of this. I believe that today, in terms of logistics, this line can change completely the panorama that as we know today. I think this can create a lot of industries to transformations of these minerals. The logistics today, leaving this region of Congo, Angola, and Zambia, the minerals goes around the world to have some kind of transformation, sometimes in different places. I believe this will allow the industrialization to be implemented in this region and even to make sure that those minerals will be even cheaper and faster available to whoever needs on this energetic transformation that the world is going to.
Construction is targeted to begin in 2027. So what are some of the steps to turning this vision into reality?
I think we still have a lot of work. There are a lot of things to be settled before we go for the execution. And I think this is where Mitrelli joined forces with Hydrolink. Mitrelli's one of the expertise is to implement projects in Africa. Hydrolink brings all the technology and the know-how from the United States. And many processes are going to. Government of Angola, government of Congo, Zambia, other partnerships that needs to be implemented, banks. It's a private project, so it requires a huge amount of investment. You mentioned it's around 1.5 billion. So we believe that we can help to accelerate this process. As I mentioned, we can navigate all the administrative process that we know that we're going to go through. We have also our company, United States, and exactly to have this relevant bridge between US and Africa. And we need to go through the contracts, we need to go through a lot of studies, to the design process, and this will take sensibly 2 years, but we are confident that from 2027 we can start this transformational project across the corridor.
What's the next step for Mitrelli when it comes to developing across the continent, but also especially around the Lobito corridor?
I think Mitrelli can do a lot of things in this development of the continent and specifically along the corridor. We have built projects related to agriculture. Food security, I think, is even more assertive than agriculture. Health, education, housing, infrastructure of water, energy, and also I think is one important thing that we're not speaking at is the digital transformation along, again, 40 million people that is in this corridor. I think there is a lot to do. I believe that we can do a lot on this regard. Also, our founder, on top of the Hydrolink in Mitrelli, he just launched a fund with the Sovereign Fund of Angola of $1 billion that I'm sure that Mitrelli has capacity to contribute in terms of execution to this vision. And, being our DNA, a company that implements things that impact lives in Africa, I believe in the sectors that we are acting, we are able to do a transformation along the corridor. We are pretty confident that Angola, DRC, Zambia, and after that, the connection with all Africa to the other side of the ocean. We are also in Mozambique, and we are doing a major project related to the Grand Terminal, and we believe that the corridor in the end is going to be connected. So this is what we are here for, and I believe in all these sectors that is a big challenge for the economic growth, but also a big opportunity. We want to be part of it, and I'm sure that we are going to contribute a lot.
If you think about the current economic and global context, how relevant is the U.S. Africa Summit today?
Well, it's a very important second. Thank you for the invitation. It's very important for us and for Angola, of course, because are giving us the opportunity to show our world as well and multiple capital the last 8 years. So,
When you think about the role that the Omatehalo Group plays in promoting, strategic partnerships between Angola and the United States, how would you characterize that?
well, being our job. So we started 22 years ago. We are a young company co-founded with our couples. We have the young people in our team. And we are doing our job because we want to bring other players from the United States to Angola, and not only to Angola, but to Africa. And we create here partnerships that developed to profits in the law that country like United States. Basically, we are trying to bring all people, all companies together and to share experience.
How easy or difficult is it to do that job?
So yes, takes take time, of course. Lot of connections, lot of visits to United States. We have a team very committed with really solid task, and we believe United States likes about Angola. It's very fresh to know that. And when we visit United States in several of the cities, like Washington, City, Texas, Angola, when we start to talk about Angola and Africa, they want to visit us, they want to know us better, and they want to make this with us. So it's, for us, it's very important to have this kind of protections.
Which sectors do you think are the priorities for partnerships between the U.S. companies and the Silk companies?
As like infrastructure is very important, like renewables as well, so energy. But the most important for us is Angola and Africa, the the raise of the people here with somebody, here we are going 1 million people per years, and a lot of people, and we need this kind of support, and we need to create more sustainable for us. And of course, you have to have friends, and the friends should be something to you, and they are bringing some for us.
Speaking of making friends, we're at the U.S. Africa Summit, which is a summit for making connections and possible partnerships. What impact do you hope that the group will be able to achieve at the end of the summit?
I expect more business, of course, because the connections are very good always, but you have to squat. To squat, you need to create yields, you need to create relationships to achieve these goals. So basically, I want some results of the summit.
So let's talk a little bit deeply in terms of the strategic partnership between South Africa and the Omatapalo Group. Talk to me about that.
It's very profitable for us. He brings us a lot of experience, shared a lot of, what we say, ideas that they are promoting to us. Of course, we are open also to country, South Africa, expected the area to be ever as users world.
Do you have relationships with other companies within South Africa?
Yes. First, supported always. We are always for the good, and we are always for the solutions.
When you think about the way investors perceive Africa, what message would you have for investors who may still think that the continent is quite risky to invest?
For me, is that what is important is to have here financial solutions for us. We need to have institutions strong. We need to have good connections also with the United States or like other countries that we want to take a bit. But in the end of the day, what is important is to have the countries solutions. And to have solutions, we need to make this investment as this kind of summits and this kind of a relationship with another countries, and of course with United States.
Africell is the Emerald sponsor and also the official telecommunications partner for the 2025 U.S. Africa Summit. Take me through what motivated Africell to participate this way.
Well, Africell's mission is to support economic growth and digital progress in Africa. The summit shares these goals, which is why we want to sponsor it.
So let's talk about Africell's communication services and how you believe that's driving digital inclusion in Africa.
We're closing the digital divide by building fast networks and offering innovative services like mobile money. We give our customers valuable digital skills and access to affordable and reliable internet.
The one thing that I found interesting is that Africell launched the first 5G network in Angola. So let's talk about this innovation and how you believe it's impacted the country.
Bringing 5G to Angola was a big step. It sped up tech use, encouraged innovation in sectors like healthcare and farming, and is helping to position Angola as an investment destination.
I do understand that Africell is active in various African markets. How do you see Africell's contribution to local economies beyond the telecom services that you provide?
We go beyond telecoms. The Africell Impact Foundation invests in arts, education, healthcare, and community projects. We support small businesses, run training programs, and celebrate African culture and heritage.
Throughout this conference, a lot of people have been talking about the AFCFTA. So when you think about the opportunities, how is Africell positioned to support the growth of the digital trade across the continent?
Yeah, we provide the digital infrastructure needed for cross-border trade, including in the Lobito Corridor region, with fast, reliable internet, and we enable secure transactions across Africa.
Let's talk about innovation. I do know that Africell does emphasize that. So perhaps we can share some of the upcoming initiatives that Africell has planned to further advance telecoms.
Among other things, we are investing in AI tools for customers, including the mobile-based AfriGPT service, which is tailored for African consumers and which is being developed in coordination with Oxford University.
When you think about the future, what does it look like for Africell and the customers on the continent?
The future is bright. We are growing fast, recruiting more colleagues, focusing relentlessly on affordability and keeping the finger on the pulse of our communities. As the only US-owned mobile operator in Africa, Africell is uniquely placed to benefit from deepening ties between the continent and the United States.
You've done 4 U.S. Africa Summits. Take me through your assessment of how the conversations have evolved over the years.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you. You know, when I reflect on all the different U.S. Africa Business Summits that I've been a part of, each time I'm at the summit, I think it's the best ever. Well, the good news is every year gets bigger and better. So it's really great to be here in Luanda, Angola, as we get the best of the best minds in the public and private sectors, and government leaders on all sides and business leaders on all sides to talk about how we can advance U.S. Africa trade and investment. And there's so many amazing things happening here, and I am so in the present because of all the action, and it's exciting to be here right now.
When it comes to advancing U.S. Africa trade, take me through some of the conversations that you found quite interesting over the past 2 or 3 days with your interactions.
Very nice. So I had an opportunity to interact with the U.S. administration's leader on Africa policy, Mr. Bullis, and he articulated the U.S.'s position on engagement with Africa and say it's not just about aid anymore, it's about trade. And I think there's a place for aid where necessary, but I think when you have commercial relationships, when people have skin in the game, and I think you get better outcomes. When everyone is invested in the outcome, that's a better thing. And then African countries maintain their own dignity as well. So that's an important conversation that I had. And the investments that I'm making throughout the continent actually demonstrate that. We're investing across Africa already, and we're finding partners where we're creating jobs, we're creating opportunities, we're creating value, and we're transforming lives in the process. So when those commercial ties are catalyzed or amplified, magic happens. So conversations around how to expand more trade between the U.S. and Africa are central to what the Corporate Council in Africa does, and are central to the way that I engage as a business leader as well.
As a business leader, I'm curious. So you've just mentioned that you got an interaction with the U.S. side, and they've basically outlined what the strategy is when it comes to Africa. When you listen to the other side from the African counterparts, how are they thinking about that strategy and perhaps even tapping into the opportunities that could be outlined over the next year or two?
Excellent. That's a great question. And you know, the African leaders see that similarly as well. They want to maintain their own dignity. They want to build capacity within their own economies and within their own countries to solve all their issues. I think something COVID taught African leaders fundamentally is that when there's crisis, you must have the ability and the resilience and the resolve to take care of your own people and maintain your dignity in the process. So I think this is a message that's resonating on both sides. It's a winning message for African political leaders, African business leaders, U.S. political leaders, U.S. business leaders. And with my investments around the world, and particularly on the African continent, I'm leaving this out. Let's make sure we're engaging on around trade, around investment in ways where we're creating value and accelerating value creation, but transforming lives in the process. So everyone agrees it's the right message. And President Lorenzo said that as well in his opening remarks at the summit. He said, we want to have conversations around trade and investment and ambition and wealth creation. That's different from what we've had in the past. So I agree totally.
Where are the exciting opportunities when it comes to some investments that you see playing out on the continent? Not just the ones that you see, but also as a business leader, where are you leaning into?
You know, there's so many opportunities across the African continent. Fundamentally, the way I think about it is that Africa is underserved in all areas. And there are lots of young, talented people that are going to be fueling the growth of Africa. So I think fundamentally that's how I think about it. But let me give you examples, and I'll just talk in abstract terms, if I may, about the investments that we're making. So at Cavista Holdings, we have investments in agriculture. Incredible opportunities there. By the end of the year, we'll have the largest cassava farm on the African continent, and we'll be investing in additional processing and value addition. We've created thousands of jobs already, and I think there are opportunities across lots of different spaces in the agricultural space. That's one. I think there are lots of opportunities in hospitality. We have today the top holiday resort destination in Nigeria, and that's just a start. We plan to do so much more. So I'm sharing these examples to say we saw the opportunity and we're investing. So again, we're not talking abstract. Yeah. We have a large software development company. It's the largest software development company in Nigeria. And there's just lots of incredibly talented people that are building technology solutions for our clients globally. That's another example. And the opportunity for growth is tremendous. So, and then we're investing in financial technology as well, another area where there can be a lot more financial inclusion all across the continent. So those are some areas that I've articulated that I'm investing in because I see opportunities. There are other things in energy and mining. Look, eventually we cannot do it all. So I'm letting people know there's so many opportunities here. We're putting our money where our mouth is. And I invite more American companies especially to bring their capital, their know-how, identify the right local partners to make sure we can all create value together, de-risk a lot of the investments that we're making, and amplify just the value creation and transform lives in the process.
Building on that, from your interactions and also some of the work you've seen over the years, how have you seen investors weigh project risk versus country risk? Has that changed over the years?
You know, that's a great question about how investors weigh that. And I think there are lots of opportunities to change the narratives around risk, especially in Africa. So in our organization, we always say, change your words to change your world. So when we're talking about risk and all these challenges, I see opportunities. Like I said earlier, Africa is underserved in so many different areas, and I consider all those areas opportunities for risk. And you know, it's the right thing to do is pull all the partners together, where it's political partners, government, and people that have access to capital and know-how. Put all those partners together, and then it's important to identify partners that have deep local expertise already, that have had success in lots of different areas. Put all those pieces together, make sure the opportunities or projects or investments are well managed. We're investing very aggressively still, and these are all large ticket investments and to great success as well. So I invite more and more people to come in so we can strengthen the ecosystem together. Again, I keep going back to my message of making sure we can create value in a way where Africans and African nations maintain their dignity, accelerate value creation here, and transform lives in the process. And Africa is the place to be.
How easy or difficult is it to find local partners on the ground who share the vision that you have when it comes to how you're looking at the different regions?
That's a great question. You know, as we think about our projects, for instance, we are letting other interested investors in any markets that we play in know that we'll be willing to take a look at different things with them and bring our expertise, our know-how, our unique differentiators because of our local expertise to help them move things along. And because we're operating in different markets on the African continent, if we cannot do it, we know others that can do it. So, and we can plug in through all the U.S. AmChams all over the country and all the different chambers of commerce. So there's infrastructure already that exists in helping identify partners. So I'll encourage any investors, go talk to the chambers of commerce, whether it's a country chamber of commerce or bilateral type chamber of commerce. That's a great place to start, to say, these are the things that I wanted to do. How do I go about doing it? And typically, they'll find partners for it. So essentially, it hasn't been hard to do that if you know the right places to go to.
Given the conversations that have taken place over the past 2 or 3 days, what are some of the issues that you believe we still need to be able to iron out? So when we meet next year, we actually have, tangible responses, or we can actually see targets being met. What are you keeping an eye on?
I like that question, and I want to give you a very simple response. I had an opportunity to speak on a panel at the summit about how we can enhance, digital infrastructure across the continent. But I think the point that I made is digital infrastructure follows people. So if you have barriers to people moving around, where we have lots of countries on the African continent that are neighboring countries, and it's harder for neighbors to go see each other than it is for folks that are not on the continent to visit those countries. I think that needs to change. I think we need to make sure we ease restrictions to help our people move around, harmonize a framework to ensure innovation that people are driving can move around freely. And what you'll find when you do that is everything else, all the outcomes that we want, all the value creation, digital infrastructure, all the progress and development that we want will follow that. So I think that's an area where African leaders can really focus on, and especially as they talk about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. You can't have a continental free trade agreement in progress if people cannot move around freely in a sensible way, in a harmonized way.
As we wrap up the conversation, are you optimistic that there is a willingness to change that so we can actually have that free movement from the conversation you're hearing?
I think that's not a fair question because I'm an optimist by nature. That's why I'm an entrepreneur. So
Right.
I see opportunities in lots of different places. But just in a more tangible sense, the conversations that I've had with lots of different political leaders, policy leaders here is that there's an understanding now for why that's important. And I'm a huge advocate for meaningful public-private partnerships where, as our leaders are crafting these policies, let's make sure we have credible private sector partners at the table to make sure we're making the right policies where it's win-win. And that message is resonating with policy leaders across the continent, and I am hopeful. So that's a tangible example of progress, and I am sure that when we get together again next year, we'll be able to announce, some barriers that have been removed already in all our efforts to make sure that there's trade and investment that's flowing and happening very seamlessly across the continent.
Thank you for tuning in to this Focus On special from myself, Nastasia Arendse, and the rest of the CNBC Africa team here in Luanda. It's a goodbye from me.